Okay, so here we are, partway through the second turn. We went through the simple things, the event shit. Got an interesting one, reserve increases. I can play this on the Perrine only and force him to move 2 units into the reserve box. If he doesn't have 2 units, then it remains out there as a penalty. He has to build the units and send them to the reserve. If he doesn't do that, by the end of the game, he loses a victory point for not fulfilling the event. But chances are he needs to build 2 units at some point in the game. Bases wouldn't count, Nexi wouldn't count. Unit construction and... Oh, okay. Yeah, let's jump down. So no probes arrived. And we dealt with the Terran economic expansion, an extra point that came from that. But then we go to the settlement phase, and everybody's settlements upgrade a level. The Gwynfari, there are none for the Perrine. The Gwynfari had to upgrade, had to increase their settlement rate so that they had a 1-point settlement to play. So basically they had to spend $6 to drop a new settlement into place. I think they were... yeah, they only dropped 1 into place, right? Yeah. And I increased it where I have a base because that gives me some defensive benefit. Since I have so few forces, I'll probably be able to base more places. And it looks like the Gwynfari, instead of taking an incredibly hostile and aggressive action against Sol, are actually going to be building a fortified area. Meanwhile, you can see the Earthlings are also spreading out. I hope they're legal. They sure look it. These are on the -1 and -2 plane, and because we have the higher jump rating now, we can reach those. I'm not sure why I'm increasing both jump and web, but that's sort of my advantage, is to be able to do both. So now we go to the unit construction, and remember this is simultaneous, and I have to keep in mind for the Terrans what they're going to have in terms of possible tech purchases after they buy their units. And of course the maintenance cost also has to be kept in mind, although that I can pay immediately at the point where I make the decision. I feel like I'm blundering because, just blundering around on the board because I can't visualize this board enough. I think with a lot of play, like with some other games that have representations that are really, really a pain in the butt, one that comes into mind is, for another space game, Merchant of Venus up there, where it's got lines and connections that make sense. So you have kind of this, nice linear distance that you can see, but it doesn't always mean what it looks like it means. And I think this is kind of like that, as you play and measure more and more of these out, you start to get a feel for what's near what, but every now and then you're just going to be blindsided by another player, seeing something you didn't see. And I don't know how you feel about that. For me, it's really frustrating. And if somebody else expresses, oh, I didn't see that at all, and I made a move that takes advantage of their lack of being able to comprehend the board and the game state, I feel kind of bad about that too. So, it's like I feel very frustrated if it happens to me, and I empathize with it if it's not. And there's just this, well, what do you do, kind of explains why the game has a low rating over on Board Game Geek. There's some great ideas here, and the whole thought of like a 3-dimensional campaign milieu, whatever. I don't want to say universe because that sounds bigger than this, but that kind of is intriguing. There's other SPI did some games that used a 3-dimensional map of one sort or another. I think Star Force Alpha Centauri uses 3-dimensional. I know it does for tactical, and I think it also does for the strategic board. And there too, you know, it's hard to visualize what the hell is going on, and that's all there is to it. You know, it's just tough to represent 3 dimensions on a 2-dimensional board. As I contemplate the Perrine builds, again, they have the most complex because they have to decide whether or not they're going to put probes into place. There's a number of problems for them. These don't reach any of these locations, right? Turn 4 is the first time I'm going to get a new colony or anything like it. And what that means is a few things. One is, I don't know, you know, how many settlements I'm going to be able to slap down and such not. But the other one is, I also have to keep doing this calculation trying to get to the destinations, because I might as well go everywhere now that I've demobilized. But I also probably want to start building up my army again, kind of slowly, because it's expensive to do so. It costs 3 times the maintenance cost, right? Okay, we pushed through the economics here, and not a lot happened, basically. For the Perrine, more probes. I may not be able to settle all these places. Some of them are zeros where I just want to throw a web nexus. I'm not limited by the countermix on the web nexi, so that's kind of important. And then I actually built myself a big old tank. The reason being, hey, I had $22, right? You know? And then for the Gwynfar, having made the decision to demobilize with them as well, I continued, built another base. I would have built yet another base, except I'm almost out of these little fuckers. And I don't want to run out. They're necessary to my expansion. So I started building a navy, very slowly. But for the Terrans, I basically, after paying maintenance, had enough money to raise both my technologies a level, and that's it. What? A couple bucks short of being able to build anything useful, because the first useful items are I'm still short. No. Okay. Yeah, the first useful items are these $4 fleets. Now what's kind of interesting is the bigger fleets are cheaper to build and maintain per capita. So this costs, and that may be why they're slower, right? This costs 4, but then the next 2 levels, which are supposedly about the same size as that, are each 2. So 2 more. Now, I don't have to build a new fleet. I can extend the smaller fleets and make them bigger. In terms of mobilization, nobody has enough of a military to do anything anymore. And now we push to the 3rd turn. And this game is really easy if you're not considering the space movement. Okay, so we're at a point in the 3rd turn here where the Terran player has drawn a 2nd ship, and they have 2 that they kind of want. This one probably needs to get played kind of early. It's a barren system. It's gonna reduce the economic potential of another planet. I want to put it kind of far from me, so I'm gonna take BD-33 here. Of course, this weakens one of the things that maybe the Gwynfar and Perrine end up fighting over, but probably one of them will end up having it, not me. And this ends up on a die, reducing the economic value by somewhere between 1 and 3 points. And we get a 3-point reduction. And for that, take one of these markers and put it here, I guess. And that shit goes back. Now we have an interesting situation, and I don't know if the discussion will even start, but where the Terrans have a Perrine kind of nice chit, and The Preens have a nice chit for the Terrans, which is a tech increase. Unfortunately, it doesn't really spell out the wording properly on, the compendium for the chits doesn't directly indicate what's on the chit, but I think it's this Terran tech breakthrough. The Terran player can increase their web distance or jump range by 1 during their next tech development phase at no cost, and then they can still increase each by 1 level. I'm going to say on a 1, because nobody's really terribly interested in bonusing the other. They found that they each have that chit, the other's chit, and that they'll work together, and they're going to do that. Which means they don't actually exchange them, they play it on each other. But trying to look at the time frame because I'm taking care of it now. So that's going to happen, essentially during the unit construction and all the economic stuff that's going on. So I'm going to put these up a little bit. This is probably a bigger bonus for the Terrans, but the Perrine can use anything that, helps them, basically. They don't want this played yet, because they have plenty of probes. So they've made an agreement to play those chits, but they're not actually going to play them. Because here's the thing. The Perrine have not reached another planet, and they will not do so until turn 4. So until they've expanded, it doesn't make much sense for them to play more of these. And that's, again, the game suggests don't expand close to yourself, and I didn't. Especially with the Perrine, and it ends up being really, really bad advice in that case. You want to get to the first place you can, which is probably the 61 virgins. Which I did on turn 1. So I've got a 1 turn delay in terms of being able to expand anywhere. Everywhere else is kind of, is going to be a slow... a longer trip. I just don't have this capability to expand my territory quickly with the Perrine. So somehow, with all the other pains that are going on in this game, I got the economic point totals screwed up. I don't know what's going on. I started upgrading the Gwynfar, and I'm up at $67. And then I decided, okay, let's check that, because I'm adding, new settlements here and getting out of whack. And I want to count what I've got. So I've got 3, 6, 7, 8, 13, 16. Well, they started with 45. I made 50 last turn, I think. Or I was at 50, or something like that. 45 and 16 is going to be 61, and I've got it marked at like 67. I don't know what's going on, but somewhere I lost count, and it should be at the 61 at this moment, I guess. I don't know if I've cheated and given them too much money. Certainly, this turn they made 60, which means I'm trying to cheat this turn. And how much did I increase? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I should be at 61 minus 6 is 55. But I have absolutely no confidence that I'm going to keep these tracks correct. And that's probably not too big a deal with the Perrine and the Gwynfar, but it is a big deal with the Terrans, because they have this additional point a turn or whatever, which right now is just a point a turn, but it could actually go up. And I should keep track of how much that's going up each time, because otherwise I have no way to check my math. This is a problem that happens in games with tracks a lot of times. Pax Britannica, another Castician design, I regularly find that the numbers I have recorded are a little off, but this was a big off, and the only thing I can think of is that other frustrations in the game are leaking in and making these harder to cope with. They're already a troublesome design choice, but what do, you know? Nowadays, you throw lots of cubes on the board and have, something that's really easy to look up. At this point, the tracks seemed like a good answer, and they allow you, a flexibility that and component keeping the component cost down that cubes just don't. Anyway, I'm now going to try to figure out where the hell the Gwynfar can expand to. I've already done the Terran expansion, which is basically nothing, because the only thing that they've added is a couple of points to their jump range. And when I looked, they have no new bases. When I looked at where they could go from Earth, the answer was really nowhere, except where they already are. So they're going to have to build some new bases, and they kind of want them anyway because they defend their territory. The problem, of course, is then you start paying maintenance on those bases, and you end up with less ability to expand because you don't have the cash to do so. You can do this really rapid expansion if you have no maintenance to pay. I don't remember what else I had to chat about. So, the problem is that now I don't have just a limited number of Gwynfar bases. I have a lot. I'm set up to basically expand into all kind of areas, but I don't know where that is exactly because of these stupid the map representation. Everything seems to be below the plane except for 51 Cygni, which I do not have a base on. It's also difficult because there's no clear delineation between things, so it takes a little extra processing to see, oh yeah, this is Epsilon Indi, this is Sigma Drac, etc. You have to kind of look at the surrounding area to see if the name and location matches what you think it does. And that we had a screw up with that a little earlier, where I thought I could, I thought I had a base somewhere where I actually didn't, because I ended up moving a count or two, but it just, there's a lot here that's going to cause problems in terms of getting in the way of getting the game correct, just because of the design implications of the way the map was set up. And the Gwynfar actually have all their little settlement markers out. Now this doesn't mean they're done settling. Epsilon Eridani's at a 5. I had to spend extra on that to make room so that I had a 3 chit. I'm going for the maximal expansion though. So that 5 is going to convert into a C next time. Let me make sure I don't have anything that's actually already fully up there. I haven't, because I've been going to big planets. There's a reason to go to small planets, which is that you don't have to go through as many steps of settlement, and you can get your C markers in place instead of your settlement markers, which are limited. On the other hand, you kind of want big planets, and you want them and you want the economic growth, the free economic growth, right? So it's kind of a mixed bag, but I can see some reasons why you would go to small planets. Anyway, we've expanded them as much as possible. We go on to the construction and maintenance. And last turn was, I think, kind of light, just because there seems to be a cycle to the way it goes, which is that, if I slap down a bunch of 1s, I'm probably going to have a bunch of 2s next turn, so I'm not going to have many 1s available, right? I also only have 1 base left for the Gwynfar. Now, I can dismantle a base if I like, but that's an expensive proposition. So it's something I have to consider very heavily if I'm going to do it. I'm finding myself having a lot of trouble with these tracks. Now, I'm used to tracks, and even tracks that have multiple counters on each track where there's the zeros and the double zeros and whatever, but for whatever reason these are just blinding me and I'm not catching what they have. I had my maintenance up at like 78 or something like that. Anyway, I've subtracted my maintenance costs from my actual remainder cost, and now I'll start building some more troops. But there's just something about this game that is really foiling me. Not just the map, but these curved tracks and everything. I'm finding myself having a really hard time, and I can't see why. They all go left to right, you know, nothing weird going on there. And I thought it would be pretty easy to demobilize and then rebuild. It's not really turning out that way. The problem is, rebuilding is expensive. It's 3 times the cost for units, and those units that I got rid of were a nice investment, and those are hard to come back. Everybody except Terra demobilized. Now this is great for Terra because you know, they have a head start on their military, but they had to make a tough choice themselves. They built a base so that they can keep expanding. Now, not to here, they're too far away from these, but I think I can get here. No, I can't. Oh wait, maybe, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going. Maybe to Row Eridani. That's probably about 7 away. My current range is 7, so what's a 2-7? That's probably 7, yeah. So I currently have range to get me here, and then this is far enough away, can probably get me to here. And then that puts me in range to directly start fighting the Gwynfar. Now, of course, the Gwynfar economy is bigger, and they should be able to win any kind of fight that develops there. And they also have the higher tech in terms of the jump range. I had to take a pass. I think that's what I was saying. In order to build that base, I had to take a pass and not increase my jump at all. I could have increased my naval strength in Earth, and given that Epsilon Indy here is fairly close to Earth and has a base, I'm in some danger of being taken out. And of course, there's also a probe coming in. Yeah. And that Earth base is vital to me being able to expand more. There's really no way for the Earthlings. The Earthlings expand the same way, as far as I can see, that the Gwynfari do. The only thing is they have this potential backup web link that they can build to make transport of stuff within their own territory a little easier. I think we're pretty much done. The Gwynfari themselves, did they build anything? They must have. They, I think, upgraded their navy up to a heavy fleet, which probably can't make it to Earth. I don't know. That's only a -5. I mean, who knows, right? You can't tell until you measure. So 3-5, that's going to be 8 or less. There's no question. It'll be lower than the additive. So we'll go on to the 4th turn, and we might be seeing, oh, whoa, why don't I mobilize now? Screw it, man. I mean, if I'm in there. Well, one good reason not to mobilize is I don't have any ground troops. So there's not a whole hell of a lot I could do by going to war. Although, perhaps I could destroy the Earth fleet. The problem is, it outguns me when it adds to the base, and there's really nothing I can do. I can't commit genocide on the planets or anything like that. Although at least one of the chits allows, I think it's the Perrine, to do something like that. They release poison gas everywhere, do horrible things. Okay, so turn 4 starts, and well, first of all, the Perrine and the Earthlings came to an agreement to play their chits. They both have a chit they want to hold. Perrine have the increased military spending, which they could play on themselves if they need a boost in cash, but that might be useful as a surprise later, so they're kind of holding on to that. And the Terrans are holding a tech minus chit, the opposite of this. It says they can't spend money on tech. They don't want to put that back in the cup if they can avoid it. So this seemed a good time for both of them to make their exchange. The Perrine should have some desire to send probes out again. They skipped last turn. Now, this turn was the first where probes arrived, and that set up little web things, and it also gives them a free settlement, given that there's nobody settled there. So their income went up, and we calculated the income that they actually received before that. Everyone else, I have to figure out what they can afford in terms of settlements, what they can reach. This is a painful process, as it will be pretty much in any game. It'll get easier the more times you play it. I think it'll probably take 4 or 5 playings for this game to kind of sink in enough that you know what the opening book is and what a couple of things are. And then even once you're there, I think you'll still see surprises where places, just because the game flows in a different pattern, where people are at places where you didn't expect them to be able to make the next move that they can make. That's great in terms of opening up a lot of variability to the games, but it's frustrating in terms of not being able to understand the map just by a glance, basically. And I think, depending on how much you hate that is going to determine how you feel about the game. Everything else seems pretty tight so far. With a $9 expansion just due to growth, and a huge bonus here, I'm starting to see these C's showing up saying, hey, I can't get any bigger. So now I'm freeing up my counter mix so I can do more colonizations. We look at our total. I'm interested in the Gwynfari only here. $73. And we might consider other people, but we're just taking their turn. So $73, that's getting me close to level 1. But obviously, I can get to higher levels by building up my economy more. And this is where I have to make my choice. This is a turn where I have a fair amount of cash on hand. And, I could build up a military, maybe. I have $64. Now, if we grab a quick calculator, because we didn't do this last time because of the cash involved, $64 is 20 points of military. That's enough to take the Terrans out, But on the other hand, I can continue to expand my economic potential. And that's going to be the decision right now. I think at this moment, I'm considering I want to keep expanding if I can. Now, that if I can is a big question, because I don't know if I have bases in places where I can expand terribly in a valuable fashion. Which is to say, I got my 4-point space here. Yeah, I could make it to here or here. But these are 1s and 2s. They're not really all that worthwhile for me to head to. And this is too far away. I can see that clearly because there's a +1 here and a -10 here. So I'm not getting there. I have only one more base left in the game. It may be time to start a war. I look at other points near me. These guys, if I build a base here, later I can expand there, but that's not this turn. The question is, can I spend the money this turn? These guys way far away from me. These are +10, +13. They're way above the plane, and I'm not going to be able to get to them. And I don't know if I see a route towards them, to tell you the truth. Formalhaut is just a 1-point area. There's no wealth over here. There's a couple of 2s over here. I could get to one of them. I don't know about both. Maybe from here I could get to Gamelaporus. Or do I just devote my points at this point and say, you know what, it's time for me to take out the Terrans. And I think that's where I'm going to go. Much as I dislike not increasing my economy, unlike games like Stellar Conquest or which I have up there, or Space Empire 4X, which I've shown several times on the chart, this is not one about just expanding. You can't do this, or Outpost for that matter. You can't do this economically. You can't, I don't think. I think you're forced into a war. And given that, hey, let's go for it, man. You know? So all my settlements for green and the Gwynfarin, I like that. Gwynfarin is green and, you know, Terran is blue. Teal. It's got some paler blue pieces. And Perrine is, plum. I don't know. Anyway, just being silly here for no good reason. Now I have to make my decision on what, you know, the Earthlings can do. Can they expand? They have a problem if they can't, because they don't have the economy the Gwynfar have. Now, obviously, if they know that the Gwynfar are going to attack them, they want to build up their defenses, maybe, I don't know. But instead, they may want to, you know, well, they can't win a war. You know, they don't have the economy to win a war as far as I see it. So I think the only option is to expand. So we'll look towards that. And certainly we want to up our technology, because that's the one thing that'll allow us to win a war. Stupid here, I already did my expansion over here to Rho Eridani. I just get confused very easily. The Earth has to do its expansion first. So they too are not really able to spend, well, a lot on expansion. I think the Gwynfar probably could, but I think I'm better off building the military at this point. Which tosses us down to time to build those troops. And at this point also we have to worry about the Perrine, who are going to get a free probe and may send others out, and our Earthlings here. Now, what's kind of cool with the Perrine is now I've got some new launching spaces, most particularly this one, that I can send more probes out from. But I don't see a niche for me to advance into here, so I'm kind of looking at, well, I'm probably going to want to go to war. Going to war doesn't mean no probe. A probe sent to some place like this, assuming I can reach there, which maybe. What's my range? 12 hexes? Yeah. Or whatever. So we clock in, it looks like at 11, at -2. A possibility. I mean, we can reach, if you look at 11 at 2, that's going to be an 11. We can reach here. Is that where I want to go? You know, or, you know, I could probably, you know, this is probably further away. That is 9 at 5. Okay. Oh, that's 10. Yeah, I mean, I've got so much striking capability with the Perrine, actually. And it's sort of hidden. And, you know, if I can get into one area and lodge myself heavily into a planet, hey, score, man. You know, I get the points for it, right? The maps and the components strike again. Here, I tried to build a settlement over at Rho Eridani, right? Well, that's not open. There's someone there. I can fix this by putting little C markers everywhere where somebody actually is. But it's, again, you know, just this, wow, it's really hard to see, because I don't know, if you're playing a game like, you know, I don't know, Third Reich, you can see, hey, I own this country or not, but everything's here is just little points, and unless the little box makes it clear. Now consider this in comparison to Pax Britannica, where the setup assumes that you put the little flags where they belong, right? So I'm going to have to fix this. And I've already, screwed around and done other stuff. So like the Gwynfari built their military, and oh boy, is that expensive. 21 points of military, great. That brings my maintenance up to 49. Well, with the bases and everything, it's just a huge expense to build this all up. Those points back and cost myself the increase the extra buck each turn. So I'm looking at Earth, and their victory conditions say they need more than anyone else. They have to get the mostest of the stuff. And on the other hand, they're in the worst position right now, other than the fact that Terra is incredibly valuable and produces, an extra buck of production each turn, and pretty soon that's going to be going up. In fact, it may already, this next turn, I don't know if it's rounded up or not, but whatever. I don't have a lot of things that I can expand to that are all worthwhile. So, my goal becomes building a military. And I'm not quite sure how to go about that. I've done one for the Gwynfarin. Theirs are easy. The Terran is much harder to decide on because I've got different options. Do I want to be web-based? Do I want to be ship-based? With this bonus, I'm up to 8 already. I'll be up to 9 jump range. I will be right in the challenging zone for the Gwynfarin. But then there's I really want those webs to work too. And I'm thinking I probably want to work towards web ships, because as an invasion force, they're just so tremendous. On the other hand, I could go with a different possibility, which is engineers. Now, they cost the same as regular infantry and such not, and trying to deploy the web hubs. But man, that sounds hard. I was already looking at that with the Perrine, and they couldn't afford an invasion force and engineers to set up the web and such not. So they're counting on the probes. I mean, they've got to count on the probes to get them in anyway. So their engineers bringing webs in is really just hey, in case my web gets wrecked somehow, I have extras, I guess. It's a little bit of extra insurance so that you can set a web back up. But webs don't get destroyed very easily, so I'm not sure how valuable that is, but I had extra money, so I bought an extra web. I did not buy an engineer. For the Earth, I think using the web ship is probably the best solution, because then I can dump troops through the web that the ship's carrying. My eyes are always bigger than my stomach or something like that in this, because I need to get these up if I'm going to get a web ship. I pay for that, I pay my maintenance, and I had enough money left to upgrade 2 points of fleet, so I'm up to a heavy fleet now. And it just keeps getting harder, right? And it's too late, because the Gwynfar are going to hit us. They are declaring a mobilization here. The Perrine can't do anything. They can't use this web that Earth has. Although conceivably Earth could build them a spare web and then give it to them if they wanted that. I'm set up to go invade Earth. Unfortunately for me, all I've got is one 4-point unit. I don't have as strong a force as I did on turn 1 because I demobilized. But we're going to mobilize, we're going to go in, and we're going to see if we can take it. If we get damaged too badly on the ground, we can go away and we can grab, I don't know, something like Alpha Centauri that is a fairly valuable planet, but is undefended, because Earth could only afford one base so far. You'll notice I threw a bunch of these red and green control markers into play. If I run out, I'm going to have to figure something else out. But as of right now, they're helping me understand who owns what in a better way than these little green squares were. All right. So, we've done this before. And That means we're going to go to the initiative phase. I am going to... I can't paw through the Terran stacks, but I can kind of see they have no force. They might do something stupid with their navy. Like move it out of the way. Hey, how big's my navy? Okay, I got 2 heavy fleets and a medium fleet. So I got enough force, and I got enough to drag a drop troop. Drop troops are kind of interesting. They're essentially equal value to infantry. I think they don't cadre, though. I think they just have 2 steps, which makes them a little weaker. So the defenses in Seoul is only a 3-point defense. It has 3 steps. I don't think I can take that. Curious how long things have been out. Okay, so if I can get to Alpha Centauri, that probably is my most sensible thing, and then make a fleet move into Seoul, because I don't have enough ground troops to take Seoul easily. I have this big transport, but I couldn't afford to build an army to go with it. No, I could spend a victory point, but I don't have any troops here either. I got a drop troop. Is it worth a victory point? Jeez, I don't know. I'm under a time limit here, because if I'm at war with the Earthlings and the Parines start coming in on me, that's going to be bad, and they probably will, because out of the 2 threats, even though the Earthlings have this huge victory point advantage they have to get, that comes from the idea that their technology is going to get really, really heavy. And wow. Oh, I don't know. Let me think some more. The Earth prize is too big to turn away. So I'm going to spend a victory point. Now this is not a victory level. This is one of the important things I had to check. So it's just one of these, 75 or 105 points. It's my 1 point out of my economy I got to spend. That seems pretty minor. I'm going to grab a single thing. Oh, wait. I have this big tank here. Can I get this to Earth? Okay, so I don't think I can make it to Earth this turn, but that allows me to take this huge old tank for 1 victory point, and that's pretty cool. Now this has to show up here or here, I think, are my only options. It's got to be one of these places with a hex on it that says that I can connect to my off-map reserve from there. And we'll calculate the distance. Pretty sure I can't get to Earth there since I had a base there to begin with. So then the question is, what do I do with my force? We jump to Earth. We're going to go first, and we're going to fight the battle. So, we're allowed to drop our drop troop. I don't know if we want to. I think we'll hold. Well, this is why I kind of want to go there, is I won't have as ugly a fight. I can take 2. I won't have a fight at all. Alright, we'll keep the drop troop on board. It was a bad idea to build that. And here's the Earth forces. So we have a naval battle, and they have 12, and we have 22. So we go over here to the naval combat, and our 22. We roll a die. We're going to do 3 to them. They're 12. They could hurt us. And they do. They do 4 to us. Okay. I like the light ship. I hope I was within 8. I think I counted that. Okay. 1, 2, 3, another medium, down to 4, I guess. Is that right? 1, 2. I don't think that's right. Let's see what we had. We had a heavy ship here. 1, 2, gets us down to here. 3, 4 gets us down to one of these fast light ships. Okay, now we got to pay attention to what we just lost. We just lost 4 points of maintenance. I could recalculate the maintenance at the end of the war as well, which might not be a good idea, but let's try to track it now, I guess. All right, we just lost 4 maintenance. They just took, not 4, 3 hits on their fleets. Now, the base is easier to destroy and worth a lot of points, so I'm going to hit this instead, the heavy ship. 1, 2, and then we said 3. That gets us down to this. All right. We're sticking around. Earth is too valuable for us to leave, so we do another round of combat, which we're probably going to lose, but so he's at 6, 10, 12 to 6. 12. Oh, that's going to hurt. To 6. And that's not too bad. Okay, 2 hits. I can't take this on the heavy ship because I'm still carrying these drop troops. I chose not to knock them out. So I'm going to drop this down to another light ship for 2 steps, and that is 2 more maintenance. That goes away. Ah, I forgot about the earth maintenance. Shit. Okay, I went from an 8 down to, I guess, a 6. So I took wrong table. 2 maintenance down. Okay. Now, what did we do? I just did the attack on the theirs, but they're taking 4 more steps, and that's, I'm getting to the point where I don't really want to keep fighting. This goes 1 down to a 2-point ship. Two. Well, 3, 4, and that means we lost some more maintenance here. I believe 6 more points of maintenance or something. We should be down to 8 at the end of this. So 6 more points of maintenance, yes, that drops us to an 8. Okay. And we're still staying. They kept the base. I don't know why, except that that light ship wasn't going to do much defending anywhere else either. So we got another round of combat, and we're at 6-10 to 2. 10's a good thing. That's going to kill it. And 2, we get to do 2 more steps. Well, there goes a light ship, I guess. Because repairing them... I don't know what the repair cost is for ships. Let me see. I don't see a rule on this anywhere. I don't know if the unit just remains a damaged unit, or what seems more reasonable to me is if I took 2 that were hit, I could then upgrade them at the difference between the next level of unit. Oh no, cadres don't have any maintenance cost. Ooh. You can't build them, but... so this would have full maintenance cost for a weaker unit, and then I could rebuild it. I think overall I'm best off taking the hit on a single light ship and losing 4 off my maintenance. Okay. So now I have taken the star system of Sol, but I haven't landed any troops there. And that's going to put us over to the Terran player's turn, and he's got nothing he can do, really. All he's got in existence is this base. The Perrine know where they want to go. So we're coming back around to the end of the turn. turn, we roll 2 dice. Does Earth want to end this? Because I'm doomed if... Oh, I forgot to move this. I hope it can move. It should be able to, but I'm not sure I can make it all the way there. I mean, it can move, but... So that's 4 and 9. That's a 10, so I could have made it here. Okay. And that's important. I need the next level. So if Earth offers up some economic points worth of planets, we could get out of this war without the danger of losing Earth itself. Now, in doing that, we have to make sure that what we're offering is reachable. Now, I believe Alpha Centauri is. I'm not sure. Epsilon Eridani may or may not be. I can't give this without destroying the base, so I don't want to do that, I don't think. So I've got to calculate and see what I can give, because if I give a couple of planets up, that is probably better than losing Earth. If I lose Earth, I'm losing 20 points, but then I get, because I still have planets left, 3 dice more in 3 dice of income out of that. So I'm giving up an average of 10.5 points for the Earth. And the question is, if I give 4 points for Alpha Centauri to the Gwenfari, I lose only 4 points, and my die roll is on an 8 or higher on those 2 dice. I give that up. On the other hand, if Earth falls, then I have trouble ending the war without losing 2 planets. So I've got to make a decision of whether I'm willing to give up both of these, and they're both reachable. This base is actually within range. So the 2 bases would almost assure a successful end to the war. 1 base gives me a significant advantage next turn in terms of, wow, you know, I'd have 3 more bucks or whatever. I don't know. So the way it's worded for the reserves, I believe, this is sort of a problematic thing. At the end of the war, if I can find the war, you have to give your reserves back. Not all of them, but the real question here is, and I'm going to have to step away and look at the rules for this. The question here is, I have to give half the units rounded up back. But I don't think I have to give the exact same units, which is to say, if I had to do that, I would have to track not just the number of units I borrowed, but the quality of the units. So this would be a reason to give a light ship up or something. It's a big deal for me to give that tank up comparatively. I forgot to add that to my maintenance. I don't know. It would be a big deal for me to give that tank up because that's a really good unit, but also it's a ground unit. And if I take 2 planets, which is what I'm counting on, I can only hold them if I have both my ground units. So that's what I have to look up there. So it's very specifically number of units. I don't have to worry about the actual type of units. And these guys could not have moved. They spent their movement jumping or somehow being transported there because they don't have the transport ship. Okay. So that means I'm not in danger of losing Earth on the next turn. And I don't know how likely that is. If I can take 3 step losses on, like, you know, a 3-to-1 or something, it's possible. So I think I'm going to just offer up Alpha Centauri, which is +4 to the die roll. So I need an 8 or higher to end this. And we get it. Okay, well, that means the Gwenfari have settled and over, you know, whatever objections I may have as a player, and I've just lost I've just gained Alpha Centauri. Now, Alpha Centauri will stop growing until the Terrans get it back. But that means my EPs go up by 4, and the Terran EPs go down by 4. Oh, fuck. That means I'll only be getting 1 next turn from my automatic growth no matter what. And I have to land some troops there. Now I'm allowed to reorganize, so I could put these guys there. They're within range of a base. I checked that. I can pull these back. I'll keep my fleet together. And we get to recount our maintenance costs and such not, just to make sure we got things right. I have to send a ship back. Okay, I had a light ship, right? That's what's getting sent back to the reserve. Oh, that's sticky. But yeah, and I'll recount the maintenance costs, and that's the end of the war and the turn.